Hi, sailors.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm very
Danny, how are
confused
you
by
today?
that. I meant to
What?
ask about that. Mark
Oh,
is
yeah.
wearing a. So Mark wore a couple weeks ago for our Avatar episode. He wore a captain's hat or something
Yeah,
like
Captain Hat.
a captain hat, and I was like, okay, sure. Much like the person who killed Brendan Fraser in this movie, it makes sense. But today he's wearing a pirate hat. My guess is that's
Yeah.
because we had to watch most of these on YouTube, so we pirated them.
Man, you're really good at making the connections. I'm wearing this hat because I think I need to wear more silly hats while we record, and I'm just kind of running out of hats. But I do think it improves the discourse that we have. Me
Okay.
having this, it's honestly
good
a nice
icebreaker.
reminder to like, yeah, no, I mean, no kidding. If we have someone on, I don't want them to think that it's like so serious or whatever. It's nice to have a little reminder on my head that we're doing a light show about goofy things. So yeah, that's the explanation for that. It bled over into my speech. How are you? You
I'm
seem
doing
lost in
okay.
thought.
My first thing, I have several things to talk about. My first thing I need to talk about is how annoyed I am. Is this, I parked, obviously, because I have a car. I get mad at people who park and they park stupid. There's an area in front of my house where it's always 4 people can park. Like, that's how many people should be there. But these idiots, these other 3 cars there, all park with like a foot and a half between them. So I am wedged in at the end, and I'm very terrified my car is going to be towed or given a ticket, because it technically is not where it should be at all. But I'm not going to move it, because why would I park like 4 blocks away when this is very clearly my spot that's available? Because I'll be like, it's like borderline, you know? It's really just depends on if like a cop is grumpy, if they willing to give me a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's just really annoying. And this is to say that if there is a super genius out there, an Elon Musk type that actually wants to help the world, like Elon Musk's good twin.
Yeah, explain.
Like the Elon
Okay.
Musk good twin. You know, like back when like Iron Man 2 came out and everyone's like, oh yeah, Elon Musk is really cool. And he didn't give us a reason yet to hate him. Someone like that. Someone should invent like a system for cars. Not like, and I know me saying Elon Musk makes
He's
it just
doing
kind of
it.
like we assume that everyone's going to be on a Tesla. But it should be like magnets, right? Where like you park and then when another car comes in, your car automatically moves up to be as close to the car in front of you so the next person can slide in.
Have you considered keying them?
See, I did consider, okay, so once a
I
coworker.
don't endorse that, but
No,
I'm
no, it's
asking
not
it
keying,
if-
it's not
have you
keying.
considered it?
But once I went on this was my first year I worked at my job. And we have a rule with our kids that since the parents are promised seatbelts on the bus, if the bus company sends us a bus without seatbelts, we either have to wait for a new bus or crowd all the kids on one bus. Which is usually fine. It's just that means the adults need to drive to the field trip instead and leave like 2 adults on the bus and the rest of it's just kids. So it's not fun for the adults on the bus. All I was to say is this was the day that happened, and I had to ride with two other coworkers to our field trip. And I remember they were really mad at this person because these were 2. One of them was a year younger than me, so, and then her younger brother is like 4 years younger than me. They both work with me, and then it was just me in the back, so it was kind of like very awkward. Like, you know, they're having sibling talk, and I'm like, I don't know how to engage because we're really not friends. But I don't know how to interact here. I also weirdly remember I could look up the exact day this happened because it was a day Sucker, like the Jonas Brothers single, dropped because we were freaking out over because it was the first Jonas Brothers single in like 10 years. And the radio was playing it. We're like, oh my gosh, it's the new Jonas Brothers song. And her brother was like, whatever. But anyway, I just remember we parked at like, it was like a shopping mall complex. And the guy who was parked like across from us was very clearly like jutting forward into like the spot next to us. So it's like the car was in front of us parked, but the front of the vehicle was not in our spot. It was somehow in the spot next to us. And
Yeah.
my coworker who drove was like really mad at it. She's like, get to her brother was like, get the paper. And I was like, what? And And then she turns to me and is like, oh yeah, our uncle does this thing where he prints out these sheets of paper for us and gives it to us whenever he sees it, where it's like, it just says, nice parking, asshole, and we put it on the car that parked bad, and then we walk away. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I kind of, that was my feel when I saw because it's literally every car in front of my house is like this. This is like, I can't, like, I'm sure maybe the car in the middle, like, just like, tried to park in the middle between them, so I can't be that mad at that one. But the other two, I'm like, no way is this car that's in front, because I'm parked on the end, right? No way is this car at the end couldn't have backed up to reach the corner. You know what I mean? It's just them being a jerk and being somewhat in, and then leaving more space in front of them. They should either move up or move back to the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So
what would you write on your
paper like
if you? Yeah, what would you write on it?
I mean, I want to be clear. He didn't write it, and she didn't write it, and the brother didn't write it. These were like, it was like something I feel like probably their uncle saw it on Facebook and printed out a ton of them and just handed it to them. It was one of those. It was like a flyer.
Yeah, I feel like you'd want to print something kind of like, I don't know, passive or even like nice, because then they know that you've seen them, but you gave them like a bread recipe or something. And they know that someone's watching, but at least,
I think the answer
saying.
is, though, we do need like magnetic parking spots.
Mm-hmm. I
always think about that. I always think about like things that are like in my mind are like, this would be such an easy fix if like an inventor who's smart put their mind to it. Like magnetic bumpers. But granted, I guess if you accidentally like turn them on, that's like a massive issue. But I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, and I think even like magnetic parking would be kind of really to danger. I don't know. I don't know why. Because that's not how it is in New York. Like there are so many car parks where you just, if you either park in the middle of the street or you go to one of those car tower things.
Yeah,
and that kind of.
Well, I don't live in deep Chicago. In deep Chicago, yeah, it is like that. Just side note, I don't know why this conversation reminded me of one of my favorite exchanges I've ever had in my life, and maybe it will come up again on this podcast, and I'm sure I'll drop it again if it's relevant. But I'm gonna drop it now, which is one of my. I feel like in elementary school you don't have a lot of memories, but one of my biggest memories of elementary school is the time there. I don't remember what the context was. I think maybe I was asked how, like, what would if I could wish anything, what would it be and why? And I'd be like, I wish there was no money and we could just have anything. And my teacher just goes, but Danny, you'd ruin the economy. And looking back on that, that's like the perfect response, because it's literally I'm saying, let's get rid of the economy. And saying, well, you'd ruin it. And I was like, okay. Good response.
That sounds like
teacher.
the prologue. What?
I was just saying good job.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they're right, That sounds like the prologue before some movie that's like, whatever that anime is that is from China about young Karl Marx. That's like the opening scene, and then it's like, do-do-do-do, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, that's how it begins. Yeah. It's funny. I don't know. What are your thoughts on getting rid of money, Danny?
I mean, they don't really exist anymore. I do think it's funny to be like, I don't know. The whole concept is so bizarre, because it's like, if you got rid of money, no one would want to do anything. Okay, but we have automation now. Okay, but if we had automation, who would build the robots? And it's like, I don't care anymore. Like, it's one of those things where as both a kid and an adult, like, you want to put me in that thought experiment, I'll give you a couple answers, and after I'll be like, okay, let's move on. It's just something I'm like, I recognize this. It's like the time I pissed my dad off, because we were driving home from a college visit, and I was like half asleep, and I grew up in the part of Indiana, the really small sliver of Indiana that's Central Time Zone, so we were visiting Michigan, and so we had to go to the Eastern Time Zone. I just remember just sitting my dad, I'm like, Dad, we should abolish time zones. And he just goes, what? That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Which immediately made me be like, okay, so now I'm going to argue about this for an hour, because I don't think it's that stupid. I would have been immediately like, I would have like had this be a throwaway thing if he wanted to be a throwaway, but if he's gonna call it dumb, he's going to regret that.
Yeah, whenever we have to upload episodes, I have to remember what like global mean time means because that's how the thing works online. And I guess that makes sense, but I mean, I guess I understand why. I understand both sides of that, in fact. This is a very smart thing that I'm saying. But yeah, I don't know. It's funny that that was such an old experience that you had with the teacher about getting rid of money because I don't have any I don't really have like young memories about that. That is more of a new thing that I've been thinking about. But it's a tough nut. Even though, nothing that we do is like natural necessarily, like the markets have emerged out of something, and a system of exchange does exist. So it's like if you got rid of money, would something like credit still exist? Would how I don't know. That's really fascinating to me to think about like how resources could be allocated in other ways.
Maybe instead of trading money, we would trade whale juice.
Yeah.
In years of our lives. And wait, isn't that a movie? That's a Justin Timberlake movie, isn't it?
Don't you mean In Time?
Yeah, they trade years of their lives.
Yeah. Well, it's good because money has no value in itself, but I think whale juice does. So
wasn't the tagline of that movie like "Time is money" or something like that?
Yeah,
that's literally the premise. I never saw that. And if you think about it, "Time is money" is the whale juice thing too.
You know what that reminds me of? Do you remember the movie Takers?
I remember the poster. I never saw it, but I remember the poster like going viral.
Yeah, well, I think about that because, like In Time, it's one of those things I remember only through advertisements.
Yeah.
Because of the Idris Elba line, "We're takers, gents." And it's funny that movie that was like small budget, 2000 whatever, has such staying power.
I mean,
now.
I think, and I'll get into this more later. I was looking at some old movie trailers. By old, I mean like the last 5 years. And there was a part where, right now we're in this, like, I don't want to say renaissance, but it's like this thing where this wacko horror, that's what I'm calling it, like, maybe that should be the trend, like, I make up a page on Letterboxd called Wacko Horror Canon, where it's like the current age of big horror mainstream hits are just, like, the weirdest movies, because I feel like it kicks off with Malignant, and then Barbarian was a big deal last year, and right now everyone's hyped about Megan. I just feel like it's a new trend where, like, everything is, we're making something really weird and kind of obviously kind of memey, but also like we want to be gonzo and fun and also kind of creepy. And I'm like, okay, I like this trend. But the reason I say this is I was looking at 2019, which I think this trend really like popped off post pandemic. I think 2019, like I think 2018, 19, and the leftovers in 2020 that happened to be released in 2020 is still stuck in that we're chasing Get Out social horror type of thing. Whereas now we're getting back into weirdo horror. But my point is...
Do you have examples about things besides Get Out that were social horror?
The really bad Janelle Monáe movie I never watched, Antebellum.
Oh, yeah.
Promising Young Woman. I think Don't Worry Darling is also still... It's a leftover of it, but I think Don't Worry Darling is also chasing Get Out. Candyman remake, obviously, is chasing Get Out. And I know that one's weird because Peele's involved, but he didn't direct it, so I feel like I can still say that. But you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty much any time there's like, and even stuff like Knives Out, which isn't a horror movie, also feels like to me it's chasing the Get Out zeitgeist in a way. But anyway, what I was gonna say is I was looking at 2019 and I was like, oh yeah, I never saw Ma and I never saw Greta, but I feel like these two are both ahead of the curve, and like if they came out now, everyone would be like, they would be way more successful because everyone would be like memeing about it. Ma was memed about, but it was not like meme to success the way like I think Megan is about to be. Just watch this episode will come out and Megan will... We're recording this the day before Megan comes out. I'm like, just watch Megan's gonna bomb at the box office. It'll be really
I don't
funny.
think Megan will bomb.
I don't think Megan will bomb either. I don't think we'll open at number 1, but that's because Avatar The Way of Water is still selling out shows across the nation with the blue dogs and all that jazz. Speaking of Avatar 2.
Oh, yes?
Oh, wait. Did you want to talk about something?
Well, I just wanted to say,
Respond to
because
Wacko
you
Horror?
said something, yeah, because kind of what really sticks out to me about a lot of these things is actually that they seem, especially something like Malignant, seems very referential. Like it seems like reimagining of something from like the 70s and 80s, and so I just wanted to push back a little bit on that because
Well, but I
I
think you can say
think
the same
that
thing
they're
about Megan. Megan is just Chucky, you know?
yeah,
Megan.
actually that's what I was saying about a lot of these things is that I think I I'm gonna be wrong about Get Out, and obviously Get Out had things. I really Us might be the most original air quotes Jordan Peele film, but I think a lot of these films are remixes of aesthetically anyway of films from the 70s and 80s.
I think, though, there's a key difference. I don't want to get too much into this, but I think about all the time when everyone was hyping up Last Night in Soho before it came out, where it's like, this is Edgar Wright trying to make a Giallo throwback film, and there were a lot of people who were like, well, Malignant did it better. I don't think Malignant really is being Giallo, except for the one scene at a hotel. But, like, I just think it's interesting because, then you have... Because I don't include Last Night in Soho. I think Last Night in Soho is chasing Get Out. It's not being wacko. And it's this weird thing where it's trying to be multiple... I don't want to talk about Last Night in Soho, but my point is like... That is a movie that I don't think has any staying cultural power at all. It came out a year ago and no one's talking about it yet. There are still a bunch of geeks who will be like... Anytime like a horror movie trailer comes out, make a joke about like Gabriel, or whenever like someone like the Waffle House thing, right? The Waffle House meme with the person, you saw that, right?
Yeah, what does that have to do with Malignant?
Because I saw an edit on Twitter that had a ton of retweets where it's Malignant throwing the chair and the Waffle House guy catching it.
Oh.
That's my thing, is like these things have cultural staying power, even if Malignant did not necessarily do well at the box office, and that's also because of like pandemic and stuff. I think Gabriel is one of the more talked about movie monsters, movie villain, like horror. He's a horror icon. He's a horror icon. And I think Megan's about to become one too, as long as the movie's good. But even if the movie isn't good, I'm sure they'll make a Megan too.
Yeah, I think Megan
Or
might
Megan
take a
33.
little while to become a horror icon, but I'm sure she'll get there. But it won't be after this movie.
Can we get Megan versus Gabriel, please?
Sure.
Yeah.
Isn't James Wan producing like every horror movie now?
Well, the reason I bring up Malignant is written by two people. One of them is the writer of Megan. So that's the main reason I've been excited for Megan, because it's the same writer as Malignant. I'm like, yeah, this might still be weirdo.
That's what I do.
What?
Hmm?
No, what were you going to say? I was just kind of going to repeat myself.
No, even though I never really loved these, I do think it would be really funny now to have crossovers with different horror characters.
Well, I think it's this thing where also, as you said, we're bringing back all these horror characters constantly. And we weren't really making new ones for a while. Because, like, as I said, we were in the social horror phase where, like, the villain was society. I think the Tethered are kind of iconic, but I don't... I think Nope is more of a sci-fi than a horror. I mean, it's sci-fi horror, but you can't push Jean Jacket into any horror movie, He's a sci-fi creature. But I think you could put the Tethered in, like, a crossover of some kind. But I do think just something where, like, Megan versus Malignant could be done on a low budget and everyone would be hyped for it.
Yeah, I mean, I would be hyped.
Like,
and I don't know if I'll get to see Megan for a while. I'm not... What was the last horror movie that came out that I kind of missed?
You saw Barbarian on HBO, I know.
I did see Barbarian. I'm glad that I did that, but then, I mean...
Barbarian's fun.
Barbarian's just a good, solid film. There was some film in between Barbarian. Smile is the one that I hadn't seen.
I hated it. Didn't like Smile.
Yeah, but it's the kind of thing that it's like Lights Out. I should watch it just to educate myself.
Don't like Lights Out. Don't like Lights Out.
Yeah, but I mean, once you've seen it, then you know what's up.
All right, I'm gonna repeat this one last time because I know I said a lot, but if James Wan is listening, he needs to hear me. Megan versus Annabelle won't be exciting. They're the same type of thing. Megan versus Gabriel, who knows who will win that? Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Avatar 2 update. I took
It's
my dad
still
to it.
there.
I took my dad to it.
Yes.
He thought it was good. He had two opinions on it, which was the underwater 3D was marvelous and a lot more military than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I wanted to bring up Avatar 2 was I saw this at a Limax in Indiana, which means it did not have the high frame rate 3D, which now makes me more confident saying the high frame rate 3D rules. I'm just going to call out one scene in particular, then we'll move on, because again, we've talked about Avatar enough on this podcast. But one scene to me that to me is like one of the absolute best scenes I've ever seen to in HFR, which is like an absolute no one cares in normal 3D, is a scene where the crab mechs are chasing them in the water. Because the sense of speed with that HFR is like insane. I feel like I should have made that point. Is like we were talking about like in our Incredibles episode how it's impossible to get like the sense of speed that the Incredibles gives you in that sequence. But I actually do think the underwater chasing with the crab mechs in Avatar 2 gets there with the HFR. Because it's like, oh my gosh, this thing is moving for them so quick. And like, I remember very specifically, there's this pan where the crab mech happens to be there and it lunges at them, and it like actually made me jump the first time I saw it in 3D, but in HFR. But in this, it's just kind of like, oh, yep, it's there and it's waiting for them because the camera's panning over, not as quick, like not, you know, you get what I'm saying, right? The sense of speed isn't as there, and it is. I don't want to say it's a lost art film because the core film to me is still great, but it's like, ooh, I wish we could have taken maybe my dad would have hated it, but the HFR, but HFR was good.
I think people should see it in HFR. I don't know, people shouldn't like see it, but you know, I recommend seeing it in the high frame rate if anyone out there hasn't yet and would like to. But
yes.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the crab chase scene because that is the point that I remember specifically as the point where I was like, all right.
But the sense of speed though was so good in that scene. That's my point though. It's like I get that. I kind of getting. That's not. I don't want to say I'm getting tired at the movie at that point, but it is getting to that point where it's like, all right. So I guess I think that's the moment where I realized, okay, so this is the third act. We've made it. Like we're here.
Yeah.
But I do think the sense of speed there is like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And then without it, it's like, what about the high frame rate? It's like. But yeah, good movie. I'll probably go see it a fourth time. I'll keep you posted. Although I'm pretty sure any updates on Avatar from now, I'll just be like. Saw it a fourth time. Moving on.
We should do Danny's Avatar corner.
Yeah. And then eventually someone will be... And you can drop, like, Avatar news for me and be like, so James Cameron says there'll be a fire Na'vi tribe. What is your take on this? And my take would just be, cool.
That would be good radio.
Yeah. Do you want to do the other thing I had before the Letterboxd game?
I don't remember the other thing you had.
So... One thing I do every year, well, I've been doing this since 2017, is I keep track of the trailers I see at the movies. And then I add them up to figure out, like, what my most watched trailer of the year is and stuff like that. So what I'm doing now, finally, is transferring that data, which I keep on multiple Microsoft Word documents, to Letterboxd. At the time of this recording, I have not published them because I want to put them all up at once, so a bunch of the lists are on private. I've got a couple more to do. But anyway, what I was going to say is I have in front of me my top 10 trailer given ever. I want you to try to guess the top 10 with the caveat that there are actually 11 films here, but there are multiple films with the same number at the bottom. So if you miss one of them, that's okay. Because, all right. So to be clear, to make this easier for Mark and the listeners who don't want to play along, even though I think this is just something where you have to guess. Like, the point of this game is to guess what movie trailers are attached to everything, right? I started doing this tracking in 2017. What I will point out is that since I started in 2017, I don't believe any of these films are from 2017 because a lot of these movies have layovers. And one thing you're going to discover very quickly is that it is very recent heavy because of the pandemic constantly delaying these movies and putting the trailers back out there in the world.
Oh, interesting.
But I also have a year breakdown if you'd like the year breakdown before you do guessing.
No, I'll just go for
Okay.
it. Ant-Man and the
Okay,
Wasp.
okay. I will add one thing to this. I forgot to say, I removed these are only movies that have come out so far. Ant-Man and the Wasp is currently. I don't think Ant-Man and the Wasp actually. Let me open it up. I don't think Ant-Man the.
You mean Ant-Man and the Wasp?
I think Ant-Man and the Wasp will make
Quantumania
this list.
Is not out.
Ant-Man and the Wasp would
Oh.
not. Ant-Man and the Wasp would not make this list though. Ant-Man and the Wasp right now would come in at the 27 to 30 range. That's at 14 watches so far. 14 trailers got in. But thank you, Spider-Man. You know, side note, did I text you that? Is that I was mad that the Ant-Man trailer didn't come out yesterday? I texted that to a bunch of...
I didn't know. There's another one?
No. There's one coming on Monday. By the time this episode's out, that the second trailer will be out. I don't know if the trailer's good or not. I'm mad that they couldn't put it out this week. Because this means when I go see Megan, the dumb Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer, thank you, Spider-Man, is going to be there. And I'm going to be very annoyed. I'll just be like, can you just give me a new one so I don't have to watch this again?
Okay.
So...
Unfortunately, that was my best guess.
Well, that doesn't count as a guess, because I forgot to tell you it wasn't eligible. Every movie's been released.
All right. And it goes back as far as 2018, right?
Yes, because I started tracking 2017, but only the 2017 films, because they were at the beginning of the year, made it in. But there was a film from 2018 in here. I'll give you that.
Is it Thor: Love and Thunder?
Thor: Love and Thunder came out in 2021. Is that your guess?
Oh. That's a guess, yeah.
Thor: Love and Thunder is not in the top 10. Let's see if it's in the top... Whatever. Thor: Love and Thunder comes in at 11. So it's in the 49 to 59 range. Can I just give you the year breakdown?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
There is a film from... I have so many windows open. There's a film from 2018. One film from 2018. 5 films from 2019. 3 films from 2021. And 2 films from last year. So we can do this in order if you'd like, by year. Alright, do you just want me to go through it?
Yeah, I just need to hear them.
Okay,
I can't...
okay. Well, before I do this, I want to say my top film from each year that is not
because I never go to the movie
represented
theater.
is the most trailers I got in 2020 is for Wonder Woman 1984, which I got 15 times. And the most for someone in 2017, which is, I don't have the number in front of me because I didn't care about opening it because it's not the full year, was Kingsman 2, The Golden Circle, which I'm still watching. I'm sorry, the movie is just so long. I've been watching it for 6 years now, and I still have not left the theater. Anyway. So then, okay. I'm gonna work my way backwards. So starting in... So with 17 appearances at the movie theater each, Mission Impossible Fallout, which is the oldest film on this list, which had the trailer of Imagine Dragons going, "Can't fight the friction," boom, 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 pff, boom. Number 8 was Wonder Park. Do you remember that movie? Sorry.
No, what's
Wonder Park is a movie that famously does not have a director. Because the director was removed from the film 2 months before release because of, I believe, either sexual harassment. I think it was sexual harassment claims. Ergo, the film was released because it's an animated movie and there's no rules with the DGA there. It was released without a director credit. So it just cuts to the cast list and then it goes to producers. It's not good. Then Rocketman, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and West Side Story. Those are all at 17 appearances each, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then at 18 appearances each is How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Hidden World, and The Secret Life of Pets. And that gets us to our top 4. You ready for this? And this is where the pandemic delays really come into effect. With 19 appearances, starting with Jumanji 2, The Next Level, released in December 2019, and ending with Venom Let There Be Carnage, is No Time to Die. Then, at 21, which is the third most, is In the Heights. Which, first trailer got at Jumanji 2, last trailer got at the Music Boxes Festival of 35mm films they showed right the weekend before they had In the Heights. Okay, and so this next one, this will be the last one so these are the final 2, and I want to say these are asterisked, because the thing is about number 1, is that number 1 So, second place has 25 appearances, and number 1 has 26 appearances. However, the first 26 appearances are part of a sizzle reel where the studio announced its upcoming films. So really, the second place film would be on top on pure trailer counts. But also, I guess I'm making this too complicated. So the second film is Avatar: The Way of Water. Which I also realize that's also not fair because it's been inflated by the 3 watches of... So I think number 1 is still top secret. I also put in the post-credit scene of the remasters as trailers, but those aren't really trailers. So the number 1 is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. 26.
Mm-hmm.
You impressed by these stats?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be a douche.
Why do you do this? Why do you do this?
No, not even why do you do this. This is about a difference in our watching habits, because I was thinking about this. I was like, I'm going to keep track of this in my brain, and I hope that it doesn't make me seem like an asshole. The only one of those movies that I've seen all the way through, actually the only 2 of them, are Avatar 2 and Godzilla King of the Monsters.
I mean, but the fact is, some of these I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen Wonder Park.
Well, I don't know if anyone's seen Wonder Park.
And maybe I watched that work and I don't remember. Don't fact check me.
But it's like, that's just not the way I
Didn't
go
I
see
see
things.
Mission Impossible with you?
Which one?
This is the most recent Mission Impossible, the one where Tom Cruise is flying helicopters.
Which fucking one is...
It's the one we saw when we were in college. It was out when we were the summer of college. When I was in college. When I graduated.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. You know, I don't remember anything from that.
Well, it's okay. We'll have an entire episode of Mission Impossible at some point, so I don't need to drop my Mission Impossible takes now, but I don't think a Mission Impossible movie is bad because you forgot what happened in it. I think that just makes it a Mission Impossible movie. You know? They're designed to be disposable.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, Lay's chips are delicious, but does the world need them?
Do you just want to move on to Letterboxd game because you're mad?
I'm not mad. I'm
mad.
just, like, Letterboxd time.
Yeah, ready for a real game? The Letterboxd game where we, Mark, tries to guess movies based on films that Letterboxd says we might also enjoy. So if Letterboxd recommends Big Hero 6 and Megamind, at the bottom of the page, the movie it might be talking about could be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We'll start by listing 5 recommended movies, none of which that share a director or a franchise with the original film. After each wrong guess, I'll give a hint to help you out. So Mark, you ready for round 1? Again,
Yes.
these are all put in 10 films, all I've watched semi-recently, and these are ordered from popularity, from most popular to least popular. All right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, round 1. Your 5 films are Boogie Nights, Pain and Gain, Trainspotting, Scarface, Brian De Palma version, and Blow. Not the old Scarface.
Wow. Is it The Wolf of Wall Street?
Yes, it is The Wolf of Wall Street.
Hey.
Your 5 additional films eventually would have been, if you're curious, American Hustle, Pulp Fiction, War Dogs, and Spring Breakers. And
Cool.
I did not have to remove anything yet. There were no Scorsese films in the top 10. Eventually, I would have had to remove Casino and Goodfellas, but we did not get there. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Round 2?
Yes.
Okay. Your 5 films are Avengers, Age of Ultron, The Avengers, Avengers Infinity War, Captain America Civil War, and The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
There's something that just came out that I felt like you didn't think you were going to like it, and then you did. But I can't remember what that was.
Plenty of movies like that in the world.
Yes. I don't know. The Justice League Snyder Cut. I finally sat down and checked that out.
It is not the Snyder Cut. The Snyder Cut is in the top 25. Your next hint is, you don't get a hint! Ha ha! Guess again.
Let me think. Is it... What superhero movies came out this year? Because we already did Wakanda Forever. Yeah, I can't think of a... I don't know. Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Ant-Man and the Wasp is not in. Ant-Man and the Wasp is not in the top 25. Your next hint is you get the year. The year this film came out is 2016.
It's not Endgame, but like,
Do you want to guess Endgame?
what else could it be? No, is it? Well, because the people would have been in Endgame too. Is it? Is it the original Justice League?
The original Justice League cut?
Yeah.
No, but that one is also in the top 25. So your next hint is you get 5 additional movies. So I'll say the 5 and then I'll do the full recap afterwards. So your 5 additional movies are Thor the Dark World, Spider-Man 3, Venom, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Venom Let There Be Carnage. And as a reminder, your other 5 were Avengers Age of Ultron, Avengers Infinity War, Captain America Civil War, and Amazing Spider-Man 2. So that's all 10 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Thor 2, Spider-Man 3, Venom 2, Doctor Strange 2.
Is this the third Thor movie?
Thor Ragnarok is your guess?
Yeah.
It is not Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok is not in the top 25. So this was your 4th guess. So now you get the actor that is billed, the number of members you've hit in the top 25. Now I believe you've hit the top 25 right twice, correct?
Yes.
So that means you will get the 3rd billed actor. Because if you didn't hit any of them, that's when you get the 1st billed actor. The 3rd billed actor in this movie, according to Letterboxd, is Margot Robbie.
Is it Birds of Prey? No, it's not Birds of Prey. Is it Suicide Squad?
It is indeed Suicide Squad.
Great.
I rewatched Suicide Squad with friend of the podcast and future guest Caleb S. Bunn and former guest and friend of the podcast Joe Schrimmer's. Their podcast Hot Trash Unlimited did a commentary track like a year ago of it that I hadn't even get around to listening to. So I watched Suicide Squad with their commentary.
Wow. I'm curious, is it, if you go on their podcast, does it tell you how to set that up if you want to do that?
You just press play and then they go like, all right, we're clicking the movie in 3, 2, 1. My goal at some point is for one of my podcasts to do a commentary. I know very specifically what and when I want to do it, but it is a while off.
But it's a secret?
Yeah, it's a Snub Club movie that won't be hitting until the 90s, so not really relevant yet. We're still in the 1950s, so.
Okay.
All right, you
Cool.
ready for the last round?
Yep.
Your 5 films are Fresh, Get Out, The Invitation. This is the Karen Kusama film, not the one from this year. Tusk and Burnt.
Is this X?
X.
Yeah, because either X or Pearl was a correct one in a previous episode, but I don't remember which one was right.
It is not X.
Okay. Is it Barbarian?
No, but Barbarian is in the top 25. So your next hint is the year this film came out. This came out in 2022.
It'd be like Malignant 2, the time that Danny watched it with the rowdy crowd.
I don't think that changes the year the movie came out, but okay.
Halloween Ends.
Halloween Ends? It is not Halloween Ends. Halloween Ends is not in the top 25. So next you get 5 additional movies. I will give you the 5 movies, then I'll recap the full list. The 5 additional movies are The Hunt, Us, Midsommar, Velvet Buzzsaw, American Psycho. So the total list is Fresh, Get Out, The Invitation, Kara Kusama film, Tusk, Burnt, The Hunt, Us, Midsommar, Velvet Buzzsaw, American Psycho.
This isn't it, but I don't know. Did you watch The Gift?
Which The Gift?
Oh man, I don't know, the one that may have come out this year, but I don't think it
The
did.
Joel Edgerton one?
Sure.
The Joel Edgerton one came out in 2015 and is not The Gift. So you hit
Cool.
You hit Barbarian, right? That was the only one you hit, right? Because
Yeah.
next you get the film, the actor that's billed the number of guesses you hit in the top 25. So you get the second billed actor. Second billed actor is Anya Taylor-Joy.
Is it The Northman?
Is not the Northman.
That's not this year.
Is that your guess? I already said it wasn't. But
Yeah, I'll guess The Northman.
it's not the Northman. The Northman is not in the top 25. So your final guess is you get the director. So after this, I can give you a full recap of all your hints because this is the final guess.
Oh, wait. I've got
Well,
it. It's the menu.
It is the menu. I was going to say the director's Mark Mylod. It's the menu. It's all a part of the menu. Ray Fiennes is top. I forgot to do my recap, by the way. I'll give the menu recap after I give the Suicide Squad recap because I always do it. Is the first two billed actors in Suicide Squad are Will Smith and Jared Leto. Yes, Jared Leto is second billed in Suicide Squad despite being in it for 5 minutes. And for the Suicide Squad list, I had to remove Justice League, even though Mark hit it, Birds of Prey, the Suicide Squad, the 2021 one, The Dark Knight, Black Adam, Snyder Cut, even though Mark hit it. And then for the menu, I had to remove Ray Fiennes. But yes.
How was the menu?
It's great. Well, I saw it in advanced screening, so I'm always a little predisposed, but I thought it was really fun. I mean, here's the reason I like it, and I know a lot of people don't like it, for the opposite reason I'm about to say is I like that it doesn't, like, unlike every other movie nowadays with, like, about eating the rich, like Triangle of Sadness, and even Glass Onion, which I like, I do think it very much is aware that, like, this is just a window dressing for a dumb, pulpy comedy, and I appreciate that aspect of it. It's got some tense sequences, but I don't ever feel like it is... I don't ever think it's being, like, up its own ass, Feels very unpretentious despite it being about that. So...
Is Triangle of Sadness up its own ass?
Yes, very. I don't like that movie. So just so I can say what movies I saw, the other popular films I saw that were in the mix this time, from order from most popular to least popular, is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which we had never guessed on this show, and I presume since recording this after the menu went up on HBO Max, that is why the menu is above it, because I'm very surprised the menu is above Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, but it is. So Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, This Is the End, The Wind Rises, RRR, His Girl Friday, The Little Rascals, and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. That is our ones we did not hit this time. Before we move on to our episode, I did want to give a special shout out to a certain movie. A movie that is relevant for our podcast? ? We'll find out. But I want to congratulate the new film in theaters right now, the sequel that we waited over 10 years for. That's right, Puss in Boots 2: The Last Wish was just named the 231st best film of all time by Letterboxd. So congratulations, Puss in Boots. You're gonna make it. I want to have that for posterity because I don't think it's gonna stay there long. I do think that it made it there. It's like we need to acknowledge that this happened and put it in auditorial ink.
Is it higher or lower than the original Puss in Boots?
Significantly higher. The first Puss in Boots is terrible. Have you seen the trailer for the new Puss in Boots?
I've seen the trailer for it, but I didn't know if it was like...
I thought it was really good.
I didn't know. I forgot how good the old Puss in Boots was.
It's bad. I actually thought the new Puss in Boots was very good. I was very pleasantly... I think that's like everyone's Letterboxd review is very pleasantly surprised by how good this is. 4 stars. I think that's essentially everyone's take on it. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. 4 stars. Very nice.
Yeah. I think that was the movie I was thinking of when I was trying to think of what you saw.
Oh, that was recent?
Had a good time
I was surprised I liked Puss in Boots.
Yeah.
Well, we are not there yet for Puss in Boots. Maybe we'll come up on this podcast again. I do think it will eventually come up on our podcast, but not like as a film we talk about, as just something whenever we get around to the Spider-Verse movies, because I know we talk about at least one of them on our grand schedule. Spoiler alert, but not really, because if you look at the director of the new Spider-Verse movie, you notice, hey, that's the guy who directed Soul. So you should know that we will eventually get to them in 3 or 4 years' time.
Cool.
So
I'm glad that organically came about.
Yeah, part of me is a little tempted. We'll discuss this closer to it, but part of me is tempted that we just do a Spider-Verse episode of the first one, even though it's technically not really, just because we would eventually cover the sequels. But we can cross that bridge when we're in the 2018 movies. We don't need to figure that out now in 2004. We do.
Yeah, but now that we're here in 2004, I think it's time we talk a little bit about what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, that's right.
What do you
Pixar
has DVDs.
Yeah, so technically I lied to you, because if we remember correctly, The Incredibles came out in November 2004. Ergo, None of these movies came out in 2004. Everything we're going to talk about today came out in 2005 because they did not rush out the DVD for Christmas. They wanted the movie to play throughout Christmas, and play it did. We already said The Incredibles made a ton of money. And The Incredibles DVD, first, before I really get into anything on this episode, and even do my intro, I do want to say one thing very sad, which is that I was always going to watch Jack Jack Attack on Disney Plus, which I did, because it's on HD on Disney Plus. I only have the DVD of The Incredibles. But Mark, do you want to hear the sad news?
Yes.
I can't find my DVD copy of The Incredibles. It's very sad. I have no idea where it
no.
is. But it's okay. I will have to go on without my DVD copy of The Incredibles. I'm probably due an upgrade too, even though I'm sure the upgrade actually... because like all the Disney Blu-rays now are so like... They have none of the artistry that was put into the old ones. The old DVDs, they put in a lot of work into those menus being cool for kids to interact with. We talked about that before. Because I remember the one for this was designed like Syndrome's computer. And you would just go through it. But anyway, we're talking about The Incredibles DVD. And specifically, I would count them as 4 short films that are on this DVD. Because those are Jack Jack Attack, which is the only one you can access on Disney Plus. Everything else you have to search on YouTube for. And they're all on YouTube in varying qualities. But anyway, Jack Jack Attack, Mr. Incredible and Pals, Mr. Incredible and Pals with Commie-tary, which is a separate short, and The Incredible Socks. All these are short films that you can access. The Incredible Socks is actually an Easter egg that you can access. It's not... You can't find it in like the DVD menu, but if you went to you were a kid messing around with the menu, you might click it and find it and be like, whoa, cool. But Incredible Socks, and then the other 2 are 2.5. How do we want to count them? Do we want to say 4? Do we want to say 3.5? Do we want to say 3 short films? How do we want to count that?
Well, I don't know how they were given on the... I
think they were given like Mr. Incredible and Pals.
It's interesting because I think it is 3, but it is like,
It's a scripted commentary.
Could've... Yeah.
But... All right, so should we just go in order? Or
yeah.
All right, Jack Attack.
Let me stop you right there. I forgot to watch Jack Jack Attack.
What?
So I remember it, but I am not refreshed on it.
Well, Mark, do you know what this is? What this means? What this means?
What?
In lieu of us talking about Jack Attack, you need to get on Disney Plus right now and watch it. But we will record a commentary over it. So that way the listeners at home can be like, well, if he's watching it, I get to watch it along with him for the first time. So, Mark, you have to make reactions, audible reactions to everything.
Oh, right.
And I will also talk during it. Is that okay?
That's okay. I'm glad that you're making content out of this. This is... My punishment will be later. I'll have to say, now I'm going to tell you, if you don't want to listen to the Jack Jack Attack commentary, skip to this point in the video. If you don't want to hang out and listen to us go ooh and oh for a few minutes, you can skip to 54:10. All right, everyone. Jack Jack Attack. We've got it open in Disney Plus, and press play in 3, 2, 1. All right, there's the Walt Disney logo. There's the little Pixar lamp. Very nice. Run of the mill. Oh, dark screen. Very interesting.
Very cool.
Whoa. I love the old style. It actually reminds me of like a Looney Tunes short.
Oh,
Jack. There it is.
I'm spooked.
Ooh. In 3 dimensions. Could we be watching this in 3D?
No, it's a joke about like it being 2D and CGI animation.
Oh my gosh. So this is so interesting because this doesn't actually come back until the sequel.
Yeah,
this isn't part of the original film, this interrogation scene with the reaction shot.
Yeah, it's very cool watching this except last time I saw this was pre Incredibles 2, so I'm like, oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah. And then it's interesting because this is obviously a shot from the movie. She's recounting the story
but it's in a different aspect.
With Jack.
Sorry, I don't actually care that much that's a new aspect ratio.
No, I mean that is what interests me. I mean, I'm all about Transformers and all that sort of thing.
Just bump up the frame rate.
Bump up the frame rate. Yeah. This baby seems pretty well rendered.
Yeah, actually, in general, I think this looks better than the movie, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, it's like, I don't know. There he is with his bottle, and
And look, and now we're gonna
Yeah.
get the audio they recorded for the movie, but they're gonna say it into the like clearer so we can hear that audio. Oh, he's farting.
Mm-hmm.
I assume he is. I
That's
should have done
fun.
a
That's a good
noise that synced up of Jack Black.
Oh, I love that shot. All of these, I love how you can do like visual tricks so easily in animation, and people just accept them, even though they're obviously fake nonsense. He's on the roof and all that sort of
What
thing.
I like about this part is look at Jack and like how he knows there's a camera at us. He's covering himself. He's
Yeah.
winking at us. Basically, a lot of fun.
He cheats out. Yeah, I do agree. Like, do they have a washing machine in their home in the movie? I don't even remember that detail.
Yeah, because it's machine washable,
There's-
darling. That's a new feature.
Yeah, but this happens in the movie. They haven't said that anything is machine washable yet.
Well, that is that
Or made
I don't
that
know
a
why he
point,
prays. It
you
always
know.
confuses me.
Well, I'm telling you,
Don't you
man. No
love this
matter if
track?
it's a short of the original thing, they make some strange gestural choices.
Look at that.
Oh, she's gonna stab him.
I want to point out this effect looks better than the Human Torch, and this movie came out the same year as Fantastic Four with Chris Evans. Always a good gag to throw a baby in the toilet.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh.
Their house even looks nicer in this.
Yeah. Well, now it
And
doesn't.
they've got haha. Yeah. And I forget how.
Honestly, she's a
Simran
good
fixes
babysitter. She
everything.
didn't just leave.
Yeah. Well, she's devoted, and this
That's
looks
good.
like over the hedge, in terms of all the things they've got going on in the background.
Hey,
We're never gonna do over the hedge, are
No.
we?
unless we do like the DreamWorks spinoff, I said maybe, but no. Ooh, we're about to get to the joke I thought was so raunchy as a child. Hold the baby by its head.
Yeah. Ah. Yeah.
Aha.
That's why this is on the deleted scenes.
Bud Lucky, everyone.
That's a good.
I really
like-
do like
I
the
like
voice
that
actor
line.
for her. I know she's just someone who works at Pixar, but it's great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you get the ringers, man.
I mean, Bud Lucky's great too, and he works there.
Well,
Oh, there she
there's
goes.
that, and
We got to do
screen's
commentary
going
for the
dark.
credits. That's how commentary works.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Brett Parker.
Yeah.
I'd like to park my Brett
Look,
on
I
that.
do want to point out the special thanks
Mm-hmm.
in this. I did notice earlier when I was watching it. I was a little like, aha, there, good to thank him. Stephen King was a technical artist on this.
Cool. Hey, Lou Romano, our old friend.
Yeah, there, Wolfgang
Mm-hmm.
Amadeus was thanked. Special thanks.
Oh, great.
Oh, I like that. I have the subtitles
Gaga.
on. They subtitled Jack's girl. All right, now it's now the. Now we're
All
done.
right, wait, no, we have to do the commentary. This is the Dansk version. So Lars Swerdson.
Now we're doing
All right,
awesome.
this is the German
We're gonna
version.
get canceled by European
Let's-
people. I don't know what that is.
No, okay. Well, no, this is like Cyrillic. There's someone did it in a Sierra Post.
What's going on?
As this looks like the language that the vampire movie was made in. Let me think.
François. Okay, I know what this one is.
French. Syndrome.
I think it's just so
David
they don't
Kruger.
redub the baby. Norsk.
Yeah.
No.
It's funny because I do kind of watch these sometimes and wonder if you recognize anyone, because
Brazil.
I know a lot of Spanish actors, like Spanish-speaking actors, you'll see them doing voice work as
That
well.
was Romania right
you know.
there. Sweden.
And the Sphinx version, good.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, are we done?
Oh,
How many-
there's the Disney Plus. There's the Disney Plus logo. We're almost
Hey,
there.
we go.
Are they gonna do
We
the
did
jet?
it.
All right, that's the end of the commentary.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
All right, everyone. So if you're just coming back to us now, or if you skipped ahead, this was the end of the Jack commentary. And yeah, great. I was really glad that they made it accessible in so many languages.
Yeah.
That's
None of them
really
are.
special.
None of everyone's acceptable in that language because it's not on YouTube. Which might be why you forgot to look it up.
Weird they didn't. Yeah.
I just figured.
Weird they.
Check.
Oh, what do you?
I was saying. I think that's what, 'cause I sent you all the things to watch, and I didn't send you this because it's just on Disney Plus. So I assume that's why you forgot.
I watched I watched the short about the men who were the animators who were the old guys on the bench
Oh,
because
I didn't watch that.
I watched 4, but that was the one that I watched. Yeah. So Jack Jack Attack, as we said in the commentary, it looks better
Yeah.
than the movie.
I already made a lot of the points I want to make
So-
during the commentary. Like, the BS joke. Felt like that was really
Yeah.
raunchy as a child. Now I'm like, oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think there were a lot of jokes like that in the movie. I can't exactly. It seemed like The Incredibles was pretty adult.
Yeah, well, yeah, we talked about that a bit. It's pretty adult. It's just, it doesn't have them saying BS. Now, here's my actual hot take. I might have sounded very joyous during the commentary, but I don't like this short. It's a fun short to talk during. I think it leaves a lot to be desired as a film on its own. It feels like a deleted plot from the movie where they're like, we're going to cut back to Kari doing this stuff, and they're like, well, no, it doesn't make any sense for us to keep doing this, and it's better to make it a reveal at the end. But then you just put all those things together, and it's not really a narrative or anything. It's just kind of like, here's some scenes of Jack Jack acting out. I do think it is interesting to look at it like, though, as a preview for Incredibles 2. Because I do think there's a lot of stuff in Incredibles 2 that lifts straight from this, from what we were saying during the commentary about the Rick Dicker scene, but also the just the Jack Jack interactions of him going crazy with his powers is very much what a lot of Incredibles 2 is built around.
And it's also interesting that Brad Bird, we talked about the archetypes of the characters, that he has the foresight to make Jack Jack as an unpredictable baby, not just as someone whose potential hasn't been realized, but as he gets older, he becomes harder to control because he becomes more explorative. So Jack Jack actually does get to grow up, unlike all of the other characters in Incredibles.
I think Violet has a bit more of an arc in 2, but we'll get to that in whenever we get around to Spider-Man's Spider-Verse and deciding about that. We'll get
My big beef with the short is that I think that it's so crazy that Syndrome shows up at their house at the end of the movie, and it barely makes sense, like that he would show up, especially if in the short they're not talking about how the parents are defeating the monster downtown. Like, how would people not be aware of that?
I think like
that's
Kari
always
might
been
not
my
be
quibble.
aware of it. Kari's a little ditzy. But I do agree that one thought I had doing this, having watched it so close, which I think is funny to have like that caveat on it, as if I've ever watched Jack Jack Attack for fun, separate from The Incredibles. But watching it so close to us talking extensively about it, it is very bizarre to think of Syndrome like being swatted away by the Omnidroid, and then just walking over there being like, hey, how's it going? Can I have that baby? And like laying that sweet talk down when he seems way more like unhinged at that point. The fact that, and I get that, okay, of course I get that it's a cartoon, but I'm just like, why doesn't he just kill her? Like, from the character we see in the movie, it's very jarring to see this, even though I get, yeah, it's a comedy short, and they just wanted to make that joke about the BS, which, to be fair, is kind of fun to get away with in the DVD bonus feature, but yeah, I don't think it really works as its own thing, or like as its own joke.
Yeah.
Personally.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It was nice to see all the friendly faces. I really loved how much fun it seemed like everyone was having with all of these Easter eggs and bonus features. Like, that's what it seems to me like this is. Like, of course, it doesn't really need to be there, and it kind of fights against the original film, but this did seem like it was a lot of fun.
Well, my pushback though against that analysis is just, I think you can say that about the other ones, because the other one is like Mr. Incredible and Pals was like the Supers files, like archives from the Supers era, and like it was like a thing alongside like Carol bios and stuff like that. And of course, the Incredible Socks is a Easter egg in its entirety. But this was something that was like advertised on the front of the box with new short film, Jack Jack Attack. Find out what Jack Jack was up to during the movie. So this to me is not like, it is a bonus feature, but it's not like the other thing where it's like the other ones where it's like, we're goofing off and having some fun here and doing some extra stuff. This is like, we want to push the DVD to have something new on it that looks really good and looks like some deleted scene from the movie we fully animated. And sure enough, that's what they did. They gave us deleted scenes that were fully animated, but I don't know. To me, it's not as interesting as, say, like, exploring the reef.
Really?
Yeah, because exploring the reef, like, exists in this cool area where, you know, we got to see this blue fish explore the water. And, you know, blue people exploring the water, that's my thing right now, in case you haven't noticed. But also, I think it's more interesting because it's like, oh, we're doing this, like, thing about the environment and animating these characters into live-action environments, which looks cool. And Mike's new car at least has, like, the excuse of being, like, the first time they did it. And I also actually think Mike's new car works better as a gag short anyway. Mike's new car feels like its own thing. This feels like, oh, what's some funny gags we can do at Jack Jack, and let's pretend we had this plan for the movie. Almost too well.
I don't get a sense that it was, like, planned.
Was it planned for the movie? I don't actually know if it was planned for the movie or not. I should have.
No, I don't think this does not. This is no deleted scene. This would be ridiculous.
But it's ridiculous as is my point, personally.
I just mean that it's. I feel like there's a lot in here that shows you that it's not a deleted scene. It destroys the tension of them finding Syndrome, and the phone call with Carrie tells you more than the short does. I feel like this is a showcase for animation.
I think it's fair to say, I think it's like we worked hard on also these Jack Jack stuff for the end. Let's show it off a bit more, you know? Like the fire effect. We did that already, so why don't we use that? Since we have the tech now that we developed for that one shot of the movie, let's make a full gag out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, it kind of is like, it's a wet fart of a short. I say after giving a very excited commentary, it's like, there's that part and there's this part. But
well, it is that way sometimes.
But
so
let's talk about.
Shall we talk about
the reason?
The real MVP of the evening?
Yes, easily.
The old Incredibles,
Mr. Incredible and Pals. Which, even though I said we can't count them as 2 or 1, we're really going to talk about it interchangeably. But I would say the ideal viewing of this is the way we did it personally. I think you should watch it on its own and get kind of like a vague amusement out of like the sketchy old time throwbackness that is obviously commentating it at the same time as being bad. But then you need to watch the commentary, which is by far the funniest Pixar bonus feature we've watched so far.
This has got to be like, because of their dynamic, I feel like this is one of the funnier Pixar things we've seen.
Because, to be clear, the listeners, the commentary is Craig T. Nelson and Samuel L. Jackson in character as Frozone and Mr. Incredible talking about this short film. And weirdly enough, them talking about it gives this whole thing a big, cool... I want to say this right now. This just came to my mind. It's true. This short does the idea of Lightyear so much better than Lightyear, because it gives you all this exposition in their commentary where it's like, this was a pilot, it wasn't supposed to get out, I'm part of this now, and it's like, oh, alright, sure, like, you immediately get, okay, like, you understand exactly what this is supposed to be in the inner world of The Incredibles, and it's really fun, and it's like, this is fantastic, like, I think it's a great bonus feature. I think Samuel Jackson gets to do more in this bonus feature, really, than he gets to do in The Incredibles. As much as we love, honey, where is my super suit?
You know, none of us ever said that in the entire Incredibles episode, and I was thinking that we would going in. But here we are. Anyway.
Well, that's kind of also my part. And I was like, we did miss that. Everyone's favorite joke. But
well, yeah, I mean, I love it, and it's great. I think that them as a duo is so good. I was really shocked by how much they sounded like they were friends doing a commentary track.
Really? I was gonna say I'm so curious, even though I think it says, like, written and directed by Brad Bird, it really does feel like in points that Samuel L. Jackson is just going off on his own, and Craig T. Nelson's like, God, dude, I just don't... And it works, because that is, like, who the characters are in the movie. But it is, like, Samuel L. Jackson is completely going ham on this. I feel like this is, like, probably, like, my first exposure as a child to, like, you know, mad Samuel L. Jackson.
Well, I think it's funny too because like in Incredibles, Frozone is kind of like the Lando Calrissian of that world,
Yeah.
as the only black man, and it's not really brought up, but this starts the commentary with them being like, they made me white.
The entire thing is really about that. It's really... I also...
It's so funny.
It's really just great. Like, I hate to keep it like it's great, you should check it out, but really, even if we're gonna spoil all the jokes here, you should still check it out, because we cannot do justice to either of these two delivery, but especially Samuel L. Jackson's delivery of his lines in this commentary. Because it is really hilarious.
Yeah. I thought it was so cute that apparently that was Pete Docter doing his voice. And it was all the animators, like, playing the superheroes in the old cartoon.
I love the part where he goes, "This is animation, you call this animation? They're moving up and down. They're animated." Yeah. They really do just also sound like, you know, like two old guys at home, like, going like, "What is this?" One thing I did want to mention that I found on YouTube, which I thought was cool, I don't know if you clicked there, I only watched a little bit of it, but there's this thing where it's...
Oh, I did watch this, yeah.
I didn't watch all of it. I just saw clips of it. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Is like, there's an intern at Pixar who, I guess for his project or something, animated this with the models they had for Incredibles 2. And I was like, oh, this is really neat that this exists. But I also don't care enough to watch it. But...
yeah, I mean, it shouldn't, you know, be a thing, but... Yeah. So this video was the commentary track, and then it would cut to the real world sometimes, and it would be them sitting on a couch, and that was the part that was animated by a student, and it wasn't fully. It was like missing shading. I don't know how to use the word.
But you can tell it's the models from. Well, also because of the date on it, it's 2018, so you know it's the models from Incredibles 2, but also it's like. I think Bob is a very noticeable, like, different ridge to his forehead in Incredibles 2 that immediately you clock and go, okay, so... But, I don't know, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, this exists, and Pixar let them put it out there and play around with their models for fun, even though I know he's an intern there, so he's probably actually doing work on the movie, too, but it's like, yeah, this is a cool side project to do, if you have those models.
Yeah.
Back to this.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty successful, even though it shouldn't, you know, we don't need to see them.
Yeah, well,
I was impressed.
I mean, I do think it's funnier without seeing them, honestly. It is just funnier to imagine, like, whatever you can imagine in your head is better than what you would be able to execute on a student level. Of these guys just being like, what's going on? But also, what I also think is really interesting about this is I think it exists on its own. Like, I say you should watch it twice, right? Because I do think you should watch it the first time and kind of just take in the intentional badness of it. And, like, enjoy, like, this... Because there are some funny... Like, there's one joke in it, without the commentary that made me laugh, where it's like, I think I found the bridge. And it just zooms out, and the bridge is standing over the tent Mr. Incredible is looking in.
Oh, yeah.
But, the other thing is, I think it's interesting, because I think that the short film on its own, you watch it, you go like, that's interesting, kind of built out the world of the supers. It's like, I know the rabbit's probably just something for the cartoon, but that's cool, there's a super villain here. Because one thing that's very explicit about The Incredibles that people have pointed out in the reading that Mark brought up, I think he brought it up more than briefly, but also we could have talked about it more of The Incredibles, as like, I don't know if conservative power fantasy is being too harsh on The Incredibles, but you know what I mean, like the libertarian ideas of like, supers have powers and they should use it and not worry about regulation or whatever.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, one thing people have always pointed out about the Incredibles movies in both of them is that there are no supervillains with powers, and very explicitly in the sequel to get around that's really more in the sequel to get around it, they brainwash the superheroes, so it's technology being used by non-superpowered people to use superpowers.
Yeah.
And then in this, you see immediately there's like this Firefly villain. You're like, okay, this is interesting. Sure, like I'm curious. Like that's cool, even though it's like very weirdly like written to be like very communist and like anti-American.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I mean, I don't know. That was funny.
I mean, I thought it was funny too, but it is very out of nowhere compared to everything else.
Oh my!
In the without the commentary, but then as soon as you get to this point in the commentary, they go like, "What? Why do they have to make their own villains? Like their own super villains? We didn't face these guys." So it's like, okay, so canonically, Brad Bird is like, no, we're still only having superheroes. There are no such thing as supervillains unless they have the tech for it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that Incredibles has never really had to touch on. I think that maybe that's kind of what The Dark Knight is about. Like you need a superhero to defeat a supervillain, but I feel like that's the only question that would bring up if you had villains in The Incredibles. So I get why they wouldn't.
Well, yeah,
make it a
because
thing.
I think you're correct to also say, ignoring like the political conversation around The Incredibles, I do think it would kind of break the world. That like if you're like you outlaw superheroes, okay, but supervillains are still going to be a thing. They're not going to go into hiding, right? So like,
Yeah.
you have to not have supervillains, otherwise the entire premise of the world doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's why whenever people are like, "Oh yeah, I hope for Incredibles 2, like Dash grows up and he's a bad guy now," and it's like that does not work within the world of the movie. Also, that's really stupid. Why would you want to watch a movie about that?
Can I make the first short film episode tangent of the episode?
Sure.
So, have you ever heard of the movie 123 by Billy Wilder?
No, but I believe it's showing at the Music Box in the next few months. I think that's where I've heard of it. It's in there. I went to see The Apartment, and I'll probably go see a couple more of theirs, but I think 123 is showing soon. I don't know what it's about. I'm just checking to see if it is showing or not, if I'm talking on my ass. But no, I have not seen it. If that is what you are asking.
It's
they are showing
part
123
of it,
in February. So
yeah,
but go on.
I would be very curious to know what you think of that movie. I learned of it because of the director's talk between Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese after Bridge of Spies, and they mention that it is on the billboard of like the movie theaters of the time. And I think because of that, and it was on someone's Sight and Sound, I looked it up, and it's really bizarre. It's not exactly how people market it. It's not as wild as they say, but it is like a very bizarre, very fast Billy Wilder movie.
Is it Billy Wilder?
But
get it? Because you said wild.
It's Wilder even. Billy Wilder.
Wilder than a Billy.
I think of it because they have characters who are East German and West German, and that's kind of what the movie is about. Kind of. It's really like it's a farcical sex comedy thing, but I think it's really funny to me seeing characters from like communist Russia make fun of American politics for whatever reason, because I don't know. That's just a pleasing thing to me. I thought of that because of this, and now I'm like compiling a list of characters who
it makes me
make
think
jokes
of,
like that.
Well, I watched recently, aka like 2 years ago, I went to this new movie theater by my work, which has insane recliners. Oh my gosh. My mind was blown by these recliners. So I had to talk about the recliners first, then I'll get back to your question. But the recliners, you could adjust, the foot part. I don't know what you call that part. Like the part where your butt is, and like the part that like sticks out where your feet are. You could obviously adjust the back of the seat, but then you could also adjust the headrest. And then they also had charging ports on these recliners. Anyway, I saw Doctor Strangelove there, and I think that has some elements of that.
Elements of what?
Where it's like
funny communist people.
Funny communist people. Funny Nazi. Sorry. Jojo Rabbit. Big fan. But you know what I mean? Like funny Nazi character, funny
Yeah.
Russian
Well,
character, and it's
I just yeah.
yeah, it's like taking the piss out on American politics. But I think the difference is, and I haven't seen 1, 2, 3, but the difference here is it's like maybe 1, 2, 3 is like this. I haven't watched it, but like the joke in this is like it's funny because this political cartoon for children has like the most blatant Cold War propaganda that's anti-Russian ever. Which like yeah sure, but also it's funny like how over the top it is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and how like at the end they imply, hey, I hope you put holes in that cup so she doesn't die. Ha 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 ha. Not actually answering
Yeah.
if they did or not.
Well, I think I don't know, it's a funny thing to see stuff like that, which I do actually find it like legit very amusing hearing like earnest communists and movies that make fun of them, but it's kind of funny, you get older and for me anyway, growing like more to the left, I think. And so eh, I don't know, it's funny because you see the examples of communist people out in the world, and that's just like, I mean, that's like communist Russia, so it's kind of its own thing. But then that doesn't like match the people you meet in real life, which is not the greatest tragedy of the world, but it does get me thinking. It makes me think of when we talked about the Joseph and Egypt movie too. You know how you watch these movies and kind of they kind of mirror in a distorted way your experiences with real life religious people.
Yeah, and I think
So,
I think what's interesting with this and the politics is I don't know because I tell you when I watch The Incredibles I never really think about the politics of it, even though it's like a big thing that people, it always is part of the discourse around The Incredibles. Is like, well, you got to acknowledge the Ayn Randness of it all. Much like when we talked about Avatar, and we were like, we got to acknowledge the everything with Avatar of it all. And I'm like, but do we? But with The Incredibles, now I'm like watching this. I'm like, it's really interesting because I think Brad Bird gets worse at this as time goes on. Um, like having very political films that feel very right. And
mhm.
what's interesting to me is I think like the Iron Giant is incredibly like I don't want to say it's a leftist film, but it is a very left film. And then all of his other films feel super far, not super far right, but like definitely on the right side of things. And it's just
Yeah,
interesting to kick off something with this like children's movie that's about because we didn't talk about this during the Iron Giant because at that time I was like poo pooing like the politics of Brad Bird because I don't ever think they're really too interesting to discuss. But now that we're like really into him, like we're not really like we're on his second film and we're now on the short films he's involved with. I don't think anything ever changed. I think the fact is that with Iron Giant, the story behind the Iron Giant is his sister was killed in a gun incident, and he wanted to make a movie about like what if a gun had a soul and didn't want to be a gun. And I'm saying this now having watched since our episode like a couple documentaries about the Iron Giant, and that's like the quote he's like, what if a son had a gun had a soul, and the gun didn't want to be a gun, and it's like that's like it's a really powerful idea that's inherently going to come off more, especially as time has gone on since The Incredibles, where gun control is less like. I guess I wasn't around during Columbine, but I assume it's always something that looks like everyone was like, "Oh yeah, this was like horrendous, awful." And nowadays, it's like it's very obvious. Most people just kind of shrug at it and move on. But at the time, it was more of like an all-encompassing thing. But I don't know because it's definitely also one of those things where like it's not 1999 anymore, so the Iron Giant isn't the same politically as it was then. I don't know. I don't know if what I'm saying is really even relevant, but I think it's. Now that
no, I
now that
think
we're
it is.
here and we're at conservative Brad Bird, what happened? like,
I mean, are we at conservative Brad Bird? That's kind of
we're getting there. We're not there
say
yet.
that it's on that. Oh, I mean, maybe you might know a little better than I do, but I don't say any of this to come down really hard one way or another because I think other people are more knowledgeable than I am. I do like thinking about it. I think that in a way the films reflect certain aspects of the world. I don't think that a film is like right or left or anything like that. Some films are.
Say,
like,
I think like American Sniper
I mean,
is like a conservative film.
well, I mean, yes, but not in the same way that like Triumph of the Will is a Nazi film. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
It's not a. Well, it's like I would say. What movie is? I'd say American Sniper is more a conservative film, but I'd say Top Gun Maverick is more a military. Like like a. I don't want to say like, because Triumph of the Will is propaganda. I think Top Gun Maverick is definitely pro-military propaganda. It's good pro-military propaganda. I think RRR, we've said on before, I think RRR is propaganda. I think it's well-made propaganda, but I don't think American Sniper is really propaganda. I think it's just a conservative film made by a conservative filmmaker. So you can compare it like the following year with... Well, no. I shouldn't speak on that because I haven't seen the Benghazi movie since it came out. But I just think inherently a Benghazi movie is going to be more very blatantly politically charged because it's a Benghazi movie. But
yeah, it's it's fun and it tickles my brain because I think it affects the choices that we make as artists. But I think there are really a number of ways to encounter any film.
Sure.
And especially like we're talking about this short film, I just think it's fun because I just think dumb communist characters are really funny.
Oh no, I think she's funny too. I just think it's really. I think it's interesting.
And I don't.
And the thing is when we were talking about this, for some reason I was thinking about, like, I'm jumping ahead in my mind to Brad Bird because I do think it's really more the 2010s. I think Tomorrowland is the most, and I don't think you've seen Tomorrowland, have you? We will eventually get to it on this podcast. I do not recommend watching it before we get to it because it is not good. But I think that is the one where it's like most blatant, like, this is Brad Bird's politics and this is what he thinks, and he thinks you're dumb if you don't agree with him. But even though beyond that, I was talking earlier about the Mission Impossible movie. I think the Mission Impossible movies inherently, they're always about like, well, there's one secret agent that goes rogue and he's the right one to do it, and he is good and he is the vigilante who will bring justice to in the world of secret agents. That is what the Mission Impossible movies basically are. I don't know. I was just thinking about. I stepped back for a second and just looked at the whole picture of Brad Bird, especially because, as I said during our Incredibles episode, we kind of did not dive into it as much as I think you wanted to. Maybe I'm reading too much into you, but I thought we wanted to talk about it maybe a bit.
About the political content of The Incredibles. Yeah. Oh, I know. I mean, I can't really speak on it because
it's been a while.
When am I going to get around to like reading Ayn Rand for real?
That's fair.
If that never happens, I'm not gonna feel bad about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I mean, it's just an element. It's something that intrigues me. I don't know. I could go on this whole thing. It's very interesting to me how films intersect with politics.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about Citizen4 last episode.
So I've been seeing
and yeah, and especially like I was reading about that, and Edward Snowden like revealed his information to a number of people, including like Glenn Greenwald, who is sort of like a controversial reporter now because of like being sympathetic towards right-leaning people. And this may be like a Twitter argument that only I know about in my little corner of the world, but that kind of thing is very interesting to me. In the same way that Disney bonus features expand the world of The Incredibles, all this other stuff expands the world of the film for me, and it makes it more rich. And I don't mean, it doesn't always have to be so frivolous, but it's a thing I like to think about. I
get what you're saying. But you know who we need to talk about? Mr. Skipper-Doo.
Yeah, we do. I do. He's great.
I
like that the commentary track doesn't really mention him.
That was the best transition I've ever done on this podcast. It's like, you also need to talk about Mr. Skipper-Doo. He's great.
He's great.
Jinx, you owe me soda.
I feel like, and I like him especially because it never explains why he's there, but we all know why he's there.
It's very true. I also like. It's just. It really is just. Again, the thing without the commentary is fine. It's cute. It's a little silly. Got a couple funny jokes. But then you get Frozen going, why is there a rabbit there? What's going on? It just becomes this great transcendent bit of comedy where he's like, I'm white and I'm holding a rabbit. and like he's like, good, you're holding hands with the rabbit. I don't want to do that. My other favorite Frozen reactions in this is when he goes, they skipped the best part where I make the ice bridge. Because the animation's bad. Mm-hmm. But anyway, back to Mr. Skipperdo.
He's how is he what smash or pass?
Smash.
Yeah, he's got a job. That's pretty cool.
I wonder if in the world of Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, where all these tunes work at the movies, I wonder what he's doing right now, Mr. Skipperdo. The guy who had this one. He's probably doing commercials. I feel like he's probably like in some local commercials.
I thought it was funny that in the villain's accent, his name sounds very French.
Skipperdo, yes, it does. This also this short. I didn't mention this yet. This short was incredibly Ratatouille to me. And I keep saying that because I think it's the best way to terminology it. I think it should just become like part of our lexicon of our podcast where you're like, this is the Ratatouille moment. Where definitely at the end when it cuts to the corn guy and he goes, I'll crush you, Mr. Incredible. I have that delivery like seared into my mind. As soon as like he appears and you don't the dialogue doesn't happen quite yet, I know exactly what he's going to say and how he's going to say it. And how he has like the little facial hair too.
Yeah. That's another thing that I'm glad they don't really mention in the commentary. It's so nice to have something that is both smart and is full of yelling. It's the ideal we see you but we know what you want kind of thing.
And I do think what's interesting to me also about the commentary is I do feel like it really nails and I guess, okay, I feel like commentary tracks, most commentary tracks you listen to are from the filmmaker, right? And sometimes they're alone, but usually they're like maybe good ones are usually with, a couple writers, maybe a producer on it, things like that. And they're just telling you how the movie was made. I think we should have more commentaries like this, or more commentaries like, the infamous Ben Affleck one for Armageddon, which I hope you've seen.
What?
You've never seen? Okay. I gotta look up the exact quote. So Ben Affleck is on one of the commentaries for Armageddon, but the way I believe the commentary, I just searched Ben Affleck. Hold on. Let me add Armageddon commentary. Thank you, Google, for listening to me. I appreciate it. I believe the way the commentary. Okay, so This is the Ringer's article from 2018. 20 years ago, the Michael Bay, Jerry Bruckheimer, Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck each separately got into a recording booth and recorded commentary for Armageddon. And then they spliced the commentary together as one big commentary track for you to listen to on DVD. So, I have never listened to the whole track, and I've never seen Armageddon, but Ben Affleck is drunk in the recording while he's watching the movie.
Oh.
And I'm trying to find a transcript. Okay, all right. I asked Michael. That's not a good. That's like my Jeremy Renner impression. I asked Michael why it was easier to train oil drillers to become astronauts than it was to train astronauts to become oil drillers, and he told me to shut the fuck up. So that was just the end of the talk. Does Michael Bay voice? Ben, just shut up, okay? This is a real plan. I was like, you mean it's a real plan at NASA to train oil drillers? He was like, just shut your mouth. 1 whole week? Now you know how to fly into space? I need my guys. Why do you need your guys? They're the best. Everyone's the best. Why are they the best? Well, they just are. But I think we should have more commentary tracks where it is just actors watching their movie. Like, Adam Driver has said he gets, like, anxiety attacks when he watches his movies. Which I obviously don't, of course, like, forcing Adam Driver to get an anxiety attack. But that said, surely he can watch
television.
Surely he could watch 65 and we could record his reactions to it. Like, you know that movie? Like, surely he can make it through that. Honestly, my favorite thing for him to do would be, like, maybe 10 years from now being asked, like, for him and, like, maybe John Boyega and Oscar Isaac to just watch the Star Wars trilogy in a booth and just get the... Because I think all of them have, like, expressed extremely negative responses. Well, Adam Driver's professional, but Oscar Isaac and John Boyega have been extremely negative towards their experience on it. So in, like, 10 years, just get them a recording booth, had them all record a track together on Rise of Skywalker, and just had Adam Driver be like, wait, this is what they did with the movie? Wait, what was it? Like, I think all this to say is, like, I think that, like, if I was a celebrity, like, or, like, if I was, like, a professional movie critic who had this poll, like, on IndieWire, I would 100% start a podcast where it's, like, I do interviews with celebrities, but the interview is, like, we watch a movie of theirs together, and it's a commentary track with the actor who's like, I'm watching this movie, and it's like, what? I don't remember this being a part of it. Or, like, they're like an actor, or, like, Michelle Williams. I read an article about her today where she says, yeah, the last thing I was in, I saw was an episode of Dawson's Creek I was on 10 years ago, because I showed it to my daughter. I'm like, man, I would love to, if you haven't seen The Greatest Showman, I'd love to put you in a booth and hear your reaction to The Greatest Showman. Like, or watch the Venom movies and be like, can you imagine a commentary track where it's Tom Hardy showing off the movie to his co-stars who haven't watched the movie? Like, I just think there's a big, the commentary track I need to listen to is the Tropic Thunder one, though. I heard that one's good because RDJ is in character on it. Because he doesn't, because in the movie he says, I don't break character till the DVD commentary's done. So.
But that's cute.
Yeah.
I really want to hear the one for a movie that I've never even seen, which is Big Trouble in Little China. That's supposedly a really good one.
Is it Kurt Russell in it?
Yeah, it's Kurt Russell and John Carpenter, both of them, I think. And they're just like, I've seen like clips of it with subtitles, and they're just like talking about how the other one was like on drugs that day or something like that. And that's a special one. I
feel like the issue now with commentary tracks is they are mostly all one person does them. Because, like, I like the idea of Taika Waititi doing a commentary track for Thor Ragnarok, but you can only listen to so much Taika by himself and have fun with that, you know? You gotta have the dynamic.
Jermaine Clement.
What?
You should bring in Jermaine Clement.
They should have done honestly,
all of his things.
Here's my pitch for the Avatar 2 DVD. Make sure Jermaine Clement and Eddie Falco have not seen this movie. Eddie Falco, and just put them in a booth together, not knowing what each other roles are in the movie, just knowing, hey, apparently we're both in this movie together. All right, let's put it on. Didn't we film all of our scenes like 5 years ago? Yeah, all right. That would be the ideal commentary track to me. Just the two of them being like, wait, what? Like, doing the movie. And then when their scenes come up, they'll be like, it's like Eddie Falco's just like, what is that accent you're putting on? And Jermaine's like, I'm sorry, okay?
Well, it was a great time.
Yeah. And I would listen to a podcast by Frozone and Mr. Incredible where they don't even need to watch their own movies. They can watch other stuff too.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, I think Craig T. Nelson isn't doing much. Samuel L. Jackson's a little busy, but I think Craig T. Nelson would be happy for an income.
He's living his life, man.
I mean, yeah, he's also in Book Club 2, the next chapter, so he's been getting that work.
What's Book Club?
Book Club is one of the old people comedies that came out back when I was in college, and they're finally coming out with a sequel. The plot of it is that these 70-year-old, or maybe 60, I don't want to assume, these senior citizens, older women, have a book club.
Book Club is that movie with Sally Field, isn't it?
I think she's in it.
Or like Diane Keaton?
Yeah, I think Diane Keaton's in it. Sally Field's in the new one, 80 for Brady, which is about 80-year-olds going to see Tom Brady at the Super Bowl. This one is about these people who read 50 Shades of Grey, and it reenacts their love life. And I felt really bad for Andy Garcia in it, because that was the year he started becoming an old person. Like, because the year before he wasn't old, and then that year he was in that, and then Mamma Mia 2, dating Cher. Granted, he got to date Cher, so like, he won. You know, like, no one's gonna say no to a role where he dates Cher.
Yeah.
And do what with
I mean,
her.
really, he should consider himself lucky to come of age as an old person among this crop of old people.
Yeah, I mean, I like Andy Garcia. I think Andy Garcia is one of our most underrated talents.
Mm-hmm.
Although I haven't seen The Godfather Part 3, so maybe he's bad in that.
I mean, he's good in it, but have we talked about The Godfather Part 3? I feel like Caleb has like done a whole thing about that.
No, we've just...
Have I talked about The Godfather Part 3?
I've just implied that we're going to get to it eventually on the Snub Club. That's all.
Oh. Well, my Godfather 3 take, because I won't be around there for it, is I actually think The Godfather 3 is fine, but I think that Sofia Coppola is really not, like, doing... Some people have said that her acting style is very different, and I don't really feel like she's there compared to a lot of the other actors in the film, but she has a very central role, so the tone that she brings to it is very jarring, and I think that's what sinks Godfather 3 for me.
I'll tell you in 2 years my take. I don't know yet. Sorry.
Okay. That's fine.
Should we
Well,
should we talk about the Incredible Socks?
sock time. Yes. This reminds me of the old things I used to make.
This reminds me of I'm gonna say another friend of the podcast who hasn't guessed it on yet. This reminds me of Kevin Lau's sock puppet films he showed me in college. Shout out to Kevin Lau and his
Really?
sock puppet films.
I didn't even know he had sock puppet films.
He does.
We should have had him on. I didn't know he had expertise.
Yeah, well, sorry.
If he's busy, that's all cool. But, I mean, it is nice. So what this is one of the animators, and I found this guy on LinkedIn,
Yeah, you
so
did.
he's real.
Yeah, I said you did. That's all. I was affirming.
Oh, yeah. And he works at Apple now. Great, good for him.
I wonder if he went over when Steve, like when the company was bought out. If he's like, nah, I'm staying at Apple. I don't care about you guys anymore. I'm curious.
Went over where?
From Pixar to Apple. Because Pixar was like, co-owned by Apple kind of for a bit at the beginning. And then when Disney bought it out, they bought out Steve Jobs' shares. I'm just saying, I'm curious. I don't know. I have no idea, but...
Oh, I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
It seemed like he... It's so okay. If we're going to break down this guy's LinkedIn profile... what it looks
he's
like.
gonna find us and like contact us and be like, "What the heck, man?"
But it looked like he was part of Pixar Animation, and then he had another job, and then he went to Apple.
Oh, that's weird.
So
I would have assumed that there was a connection through Pixar to Apple. But
well, it said that he was an effects animator. I don't know how central he was to the Pixar machine,
yeah, I could see like the Incredibles and Nemo needing a ton of effect. Cars might need effects too, but like Ratatouille probably was like,
Well, but so anyway, this guy made a short film which is on the DVD, which is the entire Incredibles film, but with sock puppets, and it has this nice felt and poster board background. And even at the beginning of the little DVD bonus, they have a cute little intro where they show you some video camera footage of some Pixar guy, like, showing it to the company. And he gives a little introduction, which is not to the camera. It's like they show you the time he showed it to the rest of the crew, which I thought was really cool. And then you get to watch it, and it's just The Incredibles, but with sock puppets. And that's pretty much it.
those do be incredible socks.
Yeah.
You have something to say?
What?
Go. No, you go. You go. Definitely go.
Oh, well, I just thought that it was a cool effect how they did the newspaper montages.
Yeah, I like that.
Because
that was
they
good.
filmed a table, and then they flipped, like, sheets of paper on top of each other with sticks to show the newspapers. Which, actually, now that I think of it, is probably, like, the old school way of doing it. But, I don't know. I just thought that was cute, because the sock puppets are funny because they're so low quality. And that had a little bit of movie magic.
Yeah, I'm doing that thing I do when I scroll through it, because this is very I remember what I want to say. The best part of this is the Omnidroid, being the
Oh yeah.
being the birds from For the Birds, and like they edit in like the squeaky toy sound that the For the Birds like toys make, like birds make, and it's funny. I like that. It's good.
Yeah.
I also like how like it gives a lot of detail to the first like 10 minutes of the movie. I'm checking right now when the time. Oh well, no, never mind. The timestamp's not really relevant because it has the intro. But I feel like it gives a lot of time to the beginning of the movie, and then it jumps ahead to you know, the plot and just rushes through the rest of it. I like the part where he has an issue dropping his briefcase and they keep in the extra take. It's cute.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. I like when he's like showing the plane exploding, so you see his head as he like makes the explosion hit the plane.
Yeah.
That was charming to me.
I also like, what is Jack Jack? Is he like a potato?
Yeah, he's like a little potato.
Which is very weird.
On a stick. Yeah. I mean, it becomes pretty incomprehensible towards the end.
It kind of just completely falls apart when Syndrome dies. It's like, okay, great.
Yeah. But I really liked this. It reminded me of, like, things that I made in high school. And then even I was doing a rewatch of college things that I made. And a lot of those do not hold up. But the ones that I like, I think have this kind of wild energy. You know,
Yeah.
They seem like they have some desire to be quick and fun above other things.
I do think if I'm to grade, I think this is the one on Letterboxd I'll be giving the highest grade, because I think the thing with Mr. Incredible and Pals is like, I do think if I'm to grade Mr. Incredible and Pals for like a website, I feel like I'm obligated to only grade the film itself and not the commentary. In which case, it's fun, but it's also a little overstays its welcome. But in this, it's like quick. It's probably like 2 minutes total when you remove the intro, and it does exactly what it sets to do. It's pretty funny while you watch it. You know, it's a solid time. And it's a good refresher for the movie, you know, having to go into this episode like a month after we watched The Incredibles 1 and being like, what happened in that movie again? Oh, thank you, Incredible Socks. Thank you for bringing me up to speed on that. But I will say it does forget the one part of the cultural impact of The Incredibles, which is there's no, honey, where is my super suit?
No, but it does have the line, when everyone's super and no one will be. It's interesting that was the one that he picked out.
I mean, that makes sense though, because the movie
it's a big line.
The movie itself does emphasize that line in the sense that it's a reprise of a line Dash said earlier, just reworded a little bit.
Yeah. Can I? Oh,
no. What were you gonna say?
Sorry, go on.
I'm taking a breath.
I have a ridiculous tangent. It's something that only I care about. You know the short film that we did that was the Rushmore scene, and you have the gun.
Yeah.
So I remember.
Great thing.
When
best thing I ever made. Go on. Sorry.
What?
that's the thing I've ever been a part of. It was written by Wes Anderson. I gotta brag about it. Go on.
Yeah, you got to deliver a Wes Anderson script. We made a short film with some other folks, and Sarah, I think. Maybe Sarah wasn't part of that one.
Sarah was part of it.
Yeah. But it was black and white. It was like one of those scene exercises where you shoot a scene based on another script. And here's the thing that I always think about in connection with that film is you were introduced by a pan up that shows the gun you're holding and then your face. And I remember Julius found that really funny. But I remember thinking that was I even rewatching it now, I'm like, no, I think that like
I think the humor comes from being like a short that you see this guy who's not in our class, even though we all know him, but he's not in our class, sitting at the edge of the corner, he's kind of sad. And you know it's because everyone's doing the scene from Rushmore, and everyone knows it's this kind of like sad, funny scene, and then the fan opens a reveal of a gun, and then me of all people, and it's like, okay, so this is the route they chose to go.
You know, I haven't even thought about it, but now it makes perfect sense. It's so wild. That moment has like always stuck with me. Like, not even that Julius was wrong, but just I remember him like laughing in the screening. And
it's funny.
That being like,
I think that I hate to say this might sound like a little too much like, oh, remember the good old days, because that was not a good class, but I do think that was like the class I was probably on fire as being like, I was the funniest person in that class constantly. I mean, there were a couple other people who were like more naturally funny, but I knew exactly how to play that class, so I could just be really like pop into things and be obnoxious and hilarious, and then just walk out. Like, I think about I think I've mentioned this before, but our Sixth Sense scene that I did where I played Tony. No, it wasn't Tony Collette's character. I was whoever plays Bruce Willis's wife in that movie, and I was like, I don't even remember. It's like the scene in the movie is like this very low key scene when they're in bed at the beginning when Bruce Willis is still alive, and they're kind of talking about their marriage, and Bruce is like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, and she's like calm and trying to calm him down, but I played it like she's like, how dare you have to be talking about your problems type of thing. And it was really great. And I love the Rushmore video. I think the Rushmore video is one of the best things I'm not joking. I think I should actually, because kids always ask me at work, can you do your evil laugh? I'm like, no, I can't, because it's too loud. I can't do my evil laugh for you guys, because no matter where I do it for you guys, it's going to be too loud. And if I do it inside, it's going to like, I'll get in trouble from other people here. And if I do it outside, there are going to be other parents in the parking lot. They're going to be like, what is going on? So I can't do. So I should just pull up the Rushmore video. Like, here it is. Here's my evil laugh.
Oh, that's not even that's my favorite part of it.
I love the camera movement.
Line.
I love the camera movement on the laugh. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the other thing that I was pretty proud of.
I think everyone gave you credit for that one. I feel like everyone was like, "That's great. That's fantastic."
Yeah, I mean it's interesting to look back on that, because I think that like that was that and a lot of the films that I worked on. I mean, it's all student work, and I would have to like make another thing before I could speak about this like an adult. But I feel like a lot of that was like having seen a lot of really cool things, not quite knowing how to put them together. So some things were neat, but it's like fundamentally the film doesn't have that like that energy, that rising, falling action that makes something like enjoyable and whatever. That's like kind of how I feel about the whole thing. But my favorite line from that, which is something that has stuck in my brain, like that corn thing you talked about earlier from The Incredibles, is what is the beginning of this line that you say? But it's something like you're like brandishing the gun, and it's like, I've had about enough of this nonsense.
I'm gonna put an end to this nonsense.
Oh, that's what it is. I've got to put an end to this nonsense.
What's the line I always think about? There's a line in there that I do always think about. It's not that one. It's, I don't know. It's probably just a laugh. I always think about like how I just something get like very. I try to get very serious, but I also just think the entire thing. You can tell I'm just kind of laughing through the performance too. I am not keeping it composed at all the entire performance, but I'm like, she was my Rushmore, and I start laughing in the middle of like my attempted cry. Or like, and I'm like, yeah, she was mine too. I delivered just how I just did it with my laugh right now. No, that was that's a great one. That's a good one. I like that one and Shit in a Can. I'm always proud of Shit in a Can.
Yeah.
Shit in a Can. Shit in a Can is great because Shit in a Can is my short film. That's a parody of Ace in the Hole.
Yeah.
And I made it not for a film class. Well, I made it for a film theory class that was not taught by a film professor. Ergo, I did not need to worry about the technical aspects of it at all. I was just like, all right, well, I don't care about white balance. We're just going to shoot this and go because I'm the only film major in this class. So ergo, mine is going to look Like if I do it bad, it's still gonna look better than most of the other people, and it did still look better than the other person because the other person didn't know how to set a 24 frames per second shutter speed. But but then again, never did James Cameron. But
Yeah, really.
But anyway, the real joke of Shin the Can to me is always that if you ever watch student films from our generation, I guarantee you, like, if you actually, like, had, like, 600 student films in front of you from the years we were in school, and you randomly pick 5, there's a good chance 3 of them would include a Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross track from Gone Girl in it. Like, and so the joke of Shin the Can is I kept trying to find these tracks that were used in, like, every movie, and I put it in there, and, like, it ends on the track that ends the movie Arrival, like, I think it's Max Richter's, On the Shores of Daylight or something like that, but it's, like, at the end of Arrival, it's the end of Moneyball, and then there's a point at the end credits where I just play the Room theme, and, you know, I just, like, I just very much picked, like, okay, these are tracks that are in everything, so I'm gonna play them obnoxiously during it, but then the actual best joke in it is an accident, which is that we forgot to record Julius's dialogue with it. And I was like, we don't have time to do radio, I just use the camera audio. And it's like the big reveal. It's the shot that is done not because we had like we had someone who was studying being a director, photographer, and doing a DP for most of it, but then there were a couple shots I just had to do. And it's one of my shots. It's incredibly, like, weirdly framing Julius in the corner, and Julius just says with the worst quality audio ever, Peter knew it was me the whole time. With, like, the hum of the camera behind it. And you can tell it's a completely different type of shot than everything else in. It's just so funny. Oh, I love shit in the can.
I think we've mentioned it before. That's the one where a young black man plays Billy Wilder as a ghost.
I want 7 Oscars.
The script in his hand.
Yeah, well, the thing that's also great about that is my big thing that I was excited about was like, this is gonna make it look cool, and it was true. It did make it look cooler than the other people, no matter what. It's the very dumb ghost effect I did. I'm like, I'm just gonna shoot. Like, we cannot move the camera at all. We have to shoot it so that way I can make this ghost effect, and it worked. The ghost effect worked really well. Although honestly, a part of me now in retrospect, like knowing that it was gonna always look dumb, I should have had him leave the room with, like, opening a ghost door to leave. That would have made it funnier. But also him fading out and fading in is really funny, too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good one. It's a good short.
Good times.
College.
You know, I am so nervous about touching that now because of audio.
What?
Like,
Shouldn't it can?
No, about, like, I've thought about, like, doing a short film. I've done some things because I've had to record things for, like, tapes and self-tapes and things. And then I actually did a little short film to get some footage where I hired a student from NYU. And I might have told you about this. They were, like, they were a sound person, and they were fantastic. They were so far ahead of anything that we were doing.
They're going to NYU. We did not go to NYU. I'd hope most people at NYU are way better than us. Sorry, go on.
NYU is honest. I mean, no, sorry, you cut out for a second. I wasn't trying to
you're good.
Interrupt or be weird. I mean, NYU is not a guarantee of quality or whatever, but I did find a really good person.
I mean, yeah,
it was just kind of like...
No, I was just saying, yeah. I shouldn't just assume. Yeah. There are some rich people who just pay their way to NYU, I'm sure. So
yeah, but it was just a really good person. And then I like worked on a film that was made by some like friends of this person or were these Columbia students. I don't know. I met some really cool like student filmmakers, but it really like made me nervous because the things that you kind of fundamentally have to get right, they really had down. And that's kind of like a hill to climb now. So I could make like my little phone Jim Jarmusch thing and like shop it around for ideas, but I really feel like a production feels like very out of my means, you know.
Yeah, I get that.
And I should just shoot something on my phone and
Go Sean Baker
shoot
with
something. But I mean, it's all about the good audio, man. $7,000 at least.
Can I add one? Can we rewind a bit to a tangent you were on earlier to say something for me to tangent off of that I wanted to say back then, but then we kept going on our student films.
Yeah, sure.
So Rushmore, our version of Rushmore.
Yes.
Put an end to this nonsense. The other thing that always sticks out to me about whenever I watch that is how bad I don't know if I think it's the exposure on the camera, but it's really fun how it looks. But it's also like very not washed out. It's very white, you know.
Yeah. I mean, there was just so much shit that we didn't do. Honestly, that a lot of that was my bad.
Well, I mean, I think it's a cool look. Honestly, I like the way it looks, even though it's not intentional.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say that I have finally started my Brendan Fraser movie marathon. And by marathon, I mean watching my Brendan Fraser movies. And last night I watched this movie called The Passion of Darkly Noon, which I gotta say, I really shouldn't have programmed it second. It definitely feels like something that should have been like right in the middle, because I thought it was just like, you know, a standard mediocre 90s erotic thriller, but it is, I don't want to say it's lynching, because I feel like that phrase is overused, but I also do feel like it's very like inspired by, and it's got like this crazy color. You should look up some images of it like while I'm talking, so you know what I'm talking about. But it's got like some really crazy color grading in it. I took a couple shots. There's like a split diopter shot in it that I was like, whoa, dear at. But it's like, it's Brendan Fraser in 1995, and it's just like insane. But the reason I was bringing it up is because like everything in the movie looks like insanely overlit, but like it also feels clearly intentional because it has, I mean, I guess Brendan Fraser isn't huge in 1995, but it's got him, it's got Ashley Judd, and it's got Viggo Mortensen. So it's like, well, they have actors, you know? So like...
Oh, yeah.
You see the pictures? It's crazy.
Yeah, they actually have the split diopter shot.
It's great.
Online.
It's a great split diopter shot. I actually recommend it.
Yeah.
It's a very crazy movie. I kind of lost interest at points, but like by the time it ended, I was like, I'm really glad I watched that. It's very weird. Respect to Brendan Fraser for doing that in 1995. You know? Mm-hmm. And yes, I keep saying Brendan Fraser. Like Kelsey Grammer.
I wasn't going to say anything just because of, you know, I don't want to be that guy, but we have now all seen that interview where he says his name, so...
But you know, I haven't
it's Fraser, everyone.
I've sent you that meme of my mom, right?
What?
The meme I made my mom a meme. Like, I turned her into a meme for my chat. Because...
Oh, okay.
I think I told you this. Like... An hour, like the morning after The Whale premiered at Venice and he got like that standing ovation that went viral, my mom texted me out of nowhere, "Have you seen The Whale?"
Oh, yeah, I remember this. Yeah. This has come up a few times, I think.
I don't think it's come up on the air. I think I've sent it to you. I don't think I've brought it up on the air. But anyway, have I seen The Whale? No, I still haven't. If someone asks me if I've seen The Whale, I think about my mom. Good times. I fully expect I'll hate The Whale when I see it. But
yeah, I'm, you know,
you're not gonna see it, which is fine. I don't think you need to.
I watched Noah.
I liked Noah
because I didn't.
You watched Mother. Mother wasn't good.
I don't like Mother.
I mean, no, but that's my point.
I just
like,
think it's
Mother.
It's kind of like if you have someone who is, you know, out there doing something that no one else is doing, you know, like I'll probably have to watch Ambulance at some point. And
you usually like Michael Bay, so don't you usually like that?
I mean, I usually do, but I think that's because I have a affinity for things that look really cool, regardless of a lot of other things about them. Which is, you know, whatever.
One of my coworkers.
Speaking of things that look really cool.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No. I was gonna say one of my coworkers. She watches movies weekly because her sister works at the movies. And she started talking to me about the Oscars today. And I was like, well, this year... She was like, I don't like it last year because they didn't nominate any movies I watched. So I'm like, whatever. You know, like that's a thing I expect from normal people. So instead of like fighting it, I'm like, well, you know, this year there's probably going to be a lot of blockbusters nominated. Like Top Gun, Avatar's going to be nominated. Elvis will probably be up there, stuff like that. And then she's like, oh, I love Top Gun. I hope that wins. I'm like, well, have you seen Everything Everywhere All at Once? And she's like, no, what is that? I'm like, you should just watch it. I don't know anyone our age who really, really hates it. Like, older people don't like it. But then she's like, well, I just think Miles Teller should win Best Supporting Actor for Top Gun. I'm like, why? He didn't do anything. She's like, oh, but he's just so good. And I'm like, and then later on in the conversation, it was like, well, another nomination that's likely to happen that is a movie I know you've seen is the person who played Angela Bassett. But I say the person who plays the mom in Black Panther Wakanda Forever is in very heavy consideration for it. And she's like, why? I'm like, what do you mean why? You just said you want Miles Teller to win. She and I literally did in front of her. I was like, I'm queen of the most powerful nation in the world. And my entire family is gone. Have I not given everything to her? She's like, yeah, so. I'm like, what do you mean so? That is like the textbook of like what you hear when you go like, what is great acting in an Oscar movie? They would show a clip like that. To be clear, I don't think Angela Bassett should be nominated, but it makes sense to nominate her. What were you going to say? I just wanted to go on that tangent. I don't know what brought it up. I just think the fact that I ran to someone who was honest, like, oh yeah, Top Gun should definitely win. I was like, what? But then when I brought up Avatar, she's like, oh, Avatar could win too. I'm like, well, I don't think Avatar should win personally, even as a huge fan of Avatar until he's done. I think they should Lord of the Rings it. Don't give him anything until the movies are done. Other than like, visuals and tech stuff. But
I was just going to say, speaking of things that look really cool, yes. I was scrolling down through Darkly Noon, and I found this movie. It's not Darkly Noon, but it's this movie starring Rose McGowan, and it's called Lewis and Clark and George, and the poster is just Rose McGowan holding a gun. and I'm like, all right, this film knows what it's about. So yeah, that's that. We're kind of getting at time. Do you want to put an end to this nonsense, or
yeah,
you wanna...
Socks? They're nice. They're good.
Socks. They're nice.
But it is also just The Incredibles, so it's really hard to break down beyond. I think us talking about student films was a fun little diversion. It worked.
Cool. Agreed.
So
what would you give this film?
Well, this film being...
what would you give these films?
Well, two of them I would give Disney Plus releases too. How about that? Because I do think because these are official products that are available on the DVD. They should at least be in the bonus feature section of The Incredibles, and they're not. Right? So I think these should be put on Disney Plus. Because they're really good, and I think, especially Mr. Incredible and Pals feels to me like, that should be like an official pick. Like,
that does seem like a lost classic.
Like jumping ahead to I think we'll get to this year because we're not going to take that long to get 2009. We went from like the 1980s to 2004 and 2022. I'm sure we will get to 2009. But the Up DVD features 2 short films. It includes the Doug short film, which is the actual short film, and then includes George and AJ, which is a proposed short film that they didn't go forward with, but they're like, well, we did the storyboards anyway, so we'll put them on the DVD. And George and AJ is available on Disney Plus. So it's like, to me, if a short film, air quotes, that is just storyboards can be available on Disney Plus, Mr. Incredible and Pals definitely should be on there. This isn't something to be embarrassed about. It's really good. Especially with the commentary.
Yeah.
And The Incredible Socks would be just fun to have in the bonus feature section of The Incredibles. Like a silly little bonus feature. And then for Jack Attack, I hate to be like that guy who's like, I don't give it anything, but it was made into The Incredibles 2 basically, so it already got a big remake in a way. So I'll just say the Disney Plus releases for the other 2 is what I'm giving.
So I want to give this film. We've been saying a lot of commentary quotes and things like that. I had a good time. I want to give these films a good time. So I'm just going to give it a little sampler of the Robert Pattinson Twilight commentary.
Great. I'm glad that exists.
Which I think is also, that's. Oh, did you not know it exists?
No, I didn't know it exists. That's great.
Oh my gosh. Well, Danny, this is a gift. My gift to you as well.
Oh, thank you.
In this shot, I remember I had a piece of wire inside the collar, so it could look rumpled however you want it. The most intense form of pretentious dishevelment I've ever seen in my life.
Great.
There's lots of bangers.
You know how I was pitching the Jermaine Clement, Edie Falco Avatar 2 commentary? My other pitch is I want there to be, and I don't think it would work because I'm sure they all saw the movie by now, but I want there to be a commentary track of the Batman where the context we are given is Colin Farrell is still shooting, even though I don't think this is accurate with timelines, but Colin Farrell is still shooting the Banshees of Inisherin at this time, and he takes the 4 leads to the movie to do a commentary track while all 4 of them watch it for the first time. And then at the moment at the end where Barry Keoghan shows up as the Joker, and Colin Farrell just goes, "What? You're in this movie?" directly to his face. That's what I want. And I want Brendan Gleeson there just being like, "Colin, why do I have to go?" I can't do an Irish. That's like the one thing I can't do is an Irish accent, but like, yeah, it is Irish, right? Fucking Irish.
He's Irish.
Yeah, well, the movie is, everyone in Banshees of Inisherin have the Irish accent, at least in the movie.
Yeah.
So, I want that. And I want Brendan Gleeson to be like, "Can I just go?" The entire time. Anyway. Honestly, I think that's maybe more.
It deserves everything.
Yeah. It just deserves commentary tracks. Everything deserves commentary tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the Jack commentary on Jack Attack.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we did a commentary track in this episode. That seems so long ago.
Yeah, remember we said you wanted to do a commentary track and then it happened?
Yeah. Great. Time
what
is
are
a
we
flat
doing
circle.
next time?
Tenet. Next time?
What? That's from...
Rev up those fires. Because we're going to... I don't know why I said that. Going to...
What are we doing?
Do something very special next time. And that is we are going to talk about a feature-length film. Oh my gosh. When was the last time we did this? And it wasn't directed by James Cameron. It's been about a month, I feel like. Feels longer than that. I don't know why. But we're going on a detour. Because we are now in the year, I believe 2005. I believe this film is still in 2005. Quick check. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is still in 2005. Which means, unfortunately, and very sadly, we are coming across the, we're about to hit, well, I think actually in 2005, and before this movie comes out, we hit the death of Joe Ranft. And one of his final credits is executive producer, and this is his only executive producer credit ever in history of Corpse Bride. So we're going to talk about Corpse Bride, a movie that I have never seen. So
I'm not sure that I've seen it, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. And we have a very special guest.
We do have a very special guest.
So should I say who it is, or do you want to say who it is?
Oh, yeah, it's Bethany Brown, who's a friend of ours from school.
Yep.
And she also is doing other things, and we'll talk about that too.
What else she'll be doing? The Letterboxd game.
Yep.
Get wrecked.
Wahoo! Really excited about that one because this is another one that we're going to shoot like 2 days before I cut it together.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, well, we'll see you then, I guess. I don't know. I don't have a joke.
Yeah, how did they end the other commentary one?
Well, one of them just stood up and walked away.
All right, great. Imagine we're doing that. Looking for the Ocean is produced by Mark Young and Danny Vincent. Our original artwork was done by Sarah Knopf, and each episode is edited by me.
If you'd like to be notified about new episodes, you can find us on Facebook at Looking for the Ocean: A Pixar Journey, on Twitter at Pixar Journey, on Instagram at Looking for the Ocean Pod, and on our website, lookingfortheoceanpixar.podbean.com.
If you want to know what I'm up to, or find me on social media, you can head over to markyoungperformer.com.
And if you'd like to see all my takes on all the movies, you can find me on Letterboxd at Blankmans. If you'd like to hear me on another podcast, I also have The Snub Club, a podcast about film history. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.